Ang mga pananaw at opinyon na pag-uulat na mag-uulat sa programang ito ay hindi pangunahing posisyon at pahayag ng organisasyong ito.
Atin pong dasalin ang Oratio Imperata for COVID-19. Makapangyarihan at mapagmahal na Ama, nagsusumamo kami sa iyo upang hilingin ng iyong patnubay laban sa COVID-19 na nagpapahirap sa marami at kumitil na ng mga buhay. Gabayan mo mga dalubhasa na atasan na tumuklas na mga lunas at paraan upang ihinto ang paglaganap nito. Patnubayan mo ang mga lumilingap sa may sakit upang ang kanilang pagkalinga ay malaki pa ng husay at malasakit. Itinataas namin ang mga nagdurusa. Makamtan nawa nila ang mabuting kalusugan. Lingapin mo rin ang mga kumakalinga sa kanila. Pagkamtin mo ng kapayapaang walang hanggan ang mga pumanaw na. Pagkalooban mo kami ng biyaya na magtulong-tulong tungo sa ikabubuti ng lahat. Pukawin sa amin ang pagmamalasakit sa mga nangangailangan. Nagsusumamo kami na iyong ihinto na ang paglaganap ng virus at ipag-adya kami sa lahat ng mga takot. Hinihiling namin ito sa pamamagitan ni Hesukristo na nabuhay at naghahari kasama mo at ng Espiritu Santo, iisang Diyos, magpasawalang hanggan. Amen. Dumudulog kami sa iyong patnubay, mahal na Ina ng Diyos. Pakinggan mo ang aming mga kahilingan sa aming pangangailangan at ipagadya mo sa lahat ng kasamaan. Malulhati at pinagpalang Birhen. Amen. Mahal na Birhen, mapagpagaling sa may sakit, ipanalangin mo kami. San Rafael Arcangel, ipanalangin mo kami. San Roque, ipanalangin mo kami. San Lorenzo Luis, ipanalangin mo kami. San Pedro Calungsod, ipanalangin mo kami. So, hello ulit sa inyong lahat. At sa mga manonood ng replay, well, feel free to be welcome. For our tonight's episode sa Open Arms, ang ating topic ay timely at ang ilan sa atin ay nakararanas pa nito. I know I have been through this myself for years now. Hindi lang months, hindi lang weeks. Ilang taon na rin. It's what we call ableism. So, ano ang ableism? Let's discuss it further. It's defined according to Oxford English Dictionary as discrimination in favor of able-bodied people. Opo, ang ableism ay ang pag-discriminate sa mga PWD para paboran ng mga may normal na abilidad or able-bodied people or in our case, neurotypicals. Ito rin ay paniniwala na mga PWD are persons with disability ay kailangan ma-fix, they need to be fixed, or hindi sila kapaki-pakinabang na full members of society. According to the authors of a 2008 Journal of Counseling and Development article on ableism, or disability rather, ang pagkakaroon ng disability is more of a defect rather than a dimension of difference. This is reported by feminists with disabilities. So, ang interpretation of difference as defect is the true root of ableist acts that cause far too many to feel marginalized, discriminated against, and ultimately devalued in this society. So, ang ganong interpretation pala ay sanhi ng mga ableist acts na parang iba ng pagtingin sa mga may PWD na nababawasan ng kahalagahan nila and they feel discriminated and marginalized. So, dito sa presentation, we will discuss 6 forms of ableism behavior that kailangan ng bawasan at least, and if we could completely eliminate as soon as possible, even though they're largely normalized. First, ableism behavior is the failure to provide accessibility beyond wheelchair ramps. Maraming ganito in many establishments in the country alone or in the city, gaya ng mga malls and other public places. The most obvious form of discrimination na hinaharap ng mga PWDs ay ang inability or walang kakayahang ka-access sa mga places and services open to their able-bodied counterparts, even with laws in place to prevent such inequality. Kagaya nung sa mga restaurants, malls, kahit sa mga eskwelahan, bakit walang mga access places na properly built na para lang may mapuntahan ng mga PWD, gaya ng mga may what you call paraplegic, quadriplegic, yung mga may inborn, ganyan. Parang walang proper na accessibility, wheelchair ramp, ganon para sa kanila. Hindi lang silang hindi nabibigyan ng ganyan. According to the chronically illest of Tumblr, whereas most people think na ang paglalagay lang ng wheelchair ramps ay sufficient or sapat, true accessibility accommodates all types of disabilities. Hindi lang nga yung physical disabilities that specifically bind people to wheelchairs. Siyempre, kailangan din yung mga may visual aid or may kailangan ng companion dahil visually impaired. Gaya braille, seeing eye dogs, assistant dogs, ergonomic workspaces, tsaka yung mga tools na madaling hawakan or easy to grip, closed captions, class note takers, and recording services for lectures and other services and all durations. For some naman, kailangan ng braille access para sa public places. Like, if you have a visually impaired companion, paano nila malalaman yung mga ganito, ganyan, mga pasikot-sikot kapag wala namang braille sa kanilang pupuntahan? Diba? Though accessibility is certainly a matter of convenience and equity, ang kakulangan sa accessible resources ay may negative impact sa well-being of PWDs or persons with disability. May mga reports na galing sa mga individuals na PWD na hindi nila natatanggap ang healthcare dahil their providers' facilities weren't accessible. And according to another study, ang mga babae na may mga disabilidad ay mas nahihirapang maka-access sa reproductive health care These are just two examples of failure to provide accessibility beyond wheelchair ramps. They should not see PWDs as those na yung naka-wheelchair lang palagi. Meron ding visually impaired, meron ding deaf, mute, tsaka yung may invisible disability. Ang pangalawa ay ang paggamit ng ableist language. So what is ableist language? Ito yung nagiging naturalized na, especially in English language. Kagaya ng words like crazy, insane, or retarded without a second thought. How come some people still have the nerve to adamantly defend the use of these terms, declaring anybody who questions their right to do so dahil ito raw ay politically correct, quote-unquote, or sensitive? As you can see in this chart or something, ito yung mga dapat daw sabihin instead of this ableist terms. This personal defense, however, fails to recognize na hindi naman tungkol sa mga ableist terms ang paggamit ng ableist language so much as what their usage suggests na ganun na nararamdaman ng speaker about the individuals they represent. Rachel Cohen-Rottenberg wrote in this 2013 Disability Representation article, when a critique of language that makes reference to disability is not welcome, it's nearly inevitable na hindi rin siya welcome being a person with disability. Beyond individual feelings, however, ableist language can contribute to a foundation of more systemic oppression of people with disabilities as a group. Parang kung ganun yung pag-describe sa mga PWD, parang they feel discouraged or down or whatever, diba? Cohen-Rottenberg continued, if a culture's language is full of pejorative metaphors about a group of people, mas likely ang kultura na tignan ng mga individuals na ganito as less entitled to rights such as housing, employment, medical care, education, access, and inclusion as people in a more favored group. If they're labeled as such, parang hindi rin sila mabibigyan ng mga karapatan sa mga housing, gamot, employment, ganyan, pati education. So let's be careful of using such terms for people with disability we come across. Some able-bodied people also fail to check their privilege. You may not see it as a big deal in the moment, kaya lang may mga able-bodied individuals na hindi nalalaman ng privilege of having access to every and any space responsible. As Erin Tatum points out at Everyday Feminism, many people may not directly discriminate against people with disabilities. Kaya lang nagagawa pa rin nila sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng resources na para dapat sa people with disabilities. Sometimes na I've been having encounters na may mga able-bodied people na sumasakay sa elevator na para dapat sa PWD. Ang dapat nilang ginawa ay sumakay sa elevator na for able-bodied people. And halimbawa na lang yung paggamit ng handicap bathroom stalls or yung mga restroom for PWDs na mga able-bodied people pati. They also take up space in crowded elevators kaysa maghagdan na lang or escalator or something. And bigyan naman nila ng space for PWDs na hindi makaakyat or makababa ng hagdan or hindi makagamit ng escalator. Hindi naman ito mahirap gawin. Although, nung time na nag-MRT ako, I was with a companion, hindi naman ako mag-isa. Since I myself have disability, invisible disability to be exact, pinili namin mag-elevator pa rin. Even though hindi naman ako madaling mapagod, I still felt relieved na may mga nag-give way pa rin para makasakay kami sa elevator. Ang mga ganitong action may not be the product of ill will, but they're evidence of the way able-bodied privilege still manifests in our society. There's a general cultural notion that disability is something inherently negative. As Ali Kennington, a board member of the American Association of People with Disabilities, told Mike, dagdag pa niya na may level of silencing or pagpapatahimik na nangyayari and erasing of the disabled experience as an important experience dahil ang pagkakaroon ng experience ng able-bodied persons ay ang pagkakaroon ng privileged experiences sa society. Ganyan. Kahit anong oras, workday, weekend, rush hour, this ay hindi talaga naiiwasang nangyari. Like, lagi namang pinapaalala kahit sa MRT, LRT, or elsewhere na bigyan naman po ng mauupuan ang mga PWDs. So, dapat may mga able-bodied people na maging more considerate and giving, ganyan. Hindi naman yan mahirap. The assumption of having no autonomy for persons with disability. Pati. Cannington also said na merong narrow-minded, as in very narrow-minded perception of disability. All individuals with disabilities are assumed to need and want certain things. And ang pag-assume na kailangan talaga nila parati ng help without asking the person if they do is a common ableist experience that Cannington and far too many others have also faced. Kumbaga, parating naiisip na mga PWD nga, so wala ng autonomy, kailangan nila na dependent or ano. Why do some PWDs are able to flourish in their career? Bakit ang iba nagagawang tumawid sa mga lansangan, sa mga ganito, may whether with a companion or mag-isa. Diba? Or kung nakakatawid nga sila, may kailangan pa rin ng companion. It depends on the situation. Automatically helping us without asking first should never be done. Sabi ni Tiffany Carlson in a 2013 Huffington Post article, guys, we know when to ask for help, just wait for us to speak up. Of course, kailangan lang ng mga PWDs kung kaya magsabi whether they need help or kaya na nila by themselves, mga ganito, mga simple activities. Or kapag wala sila sa house, whether they need help, they will say it. Meron ding entitlement of knowing how and why people become disabled. Tatum explained at Everyday Feminism na madalas may assumption ng mga able-bodied people na ang existence ng mga PWDs represents some kind of mystery that they need to get to the bottom of. Parang they still have the nerve to figure bakit sila nagkaganito. Why do some PWDs acquire that disability? putting the onus on people with disabilities to explain themselves, to essentially describe how and why they live in their bodies is inappropriate, unfair, and insulting. So bakit pa kailangang alamin ang cause nung pagiging disabled ng PWD? It does not always have to be done, di ba? Rather, yung achievements ng PWDs ang dapat bigyan ng focus instead of asking on and on bakit at paano sila nagkaroon ng ganon. This frequently occurs among young children whose parents allows them to ask people with disabilities what happened to them. Wow. Bakit pa sila bibigyan ng burden to do that? Dahil ba curious yung mga bata, kaya akala nila may ganito si Juan dahil akala nila na putukan or something or inborn, then saka lang nila sasabihin na why did it happen to Juan or Pedring, di ba? They believe the answer will provide a social lesson, quote unquote, that underscores the importance of tolerance and accepting difference. Pag hinahayaan natin ng mga bata na ang mga ganyan, it actually teaches them that they are entitled to demand explanation and justification from everyone who's different than them. So, bakit naman wag natin pong i-practice ng children na bakit po siya ganyan? What happened to him exactly, di ba? It doesn't have to always be that way. It's not our job to educate anyone, whether children or adults. 21. Everyone has the right to go about their day without being accosted. Bakit ba natin kailangang alamin yung ordeal nila when we don't really have to? Kumbaga parang kinomunicate pa sila yung mga PWD ng able-bodied persons in a way na hindi appropriate. Ganun ang nagiging impression. And there's always this assumption na pagkakaroon ng disability is always visible. No, it's not, and it's never gonna be. Maraming assumption ang able-bodied people frequently na ang existence ng mga PWDs, according to Tatum, represents some kind of mystery that they need to get the bottom of. So, bakit naman bibigyan pa ng pabigat ang mga PWDs to explain themselves, to essentially describe why ganun sila, how they live in that body? It's not appropriate, and it's also unfair and insulting in the part of the PWDs. Madalas itong nangyayari among young children. Okay. So, I already explained this. Nirepeat ko na, but it's okay. Anyway, let's now go to Inklumihan. Ito ay fundraiser para sa mga PWD na walang-wala, kabilang sa mga nawalan ng trabaho pansamantala dahil sa community quarantine period at mga hindi nabigyan ng ayuda or SAP or Special Amelioration Program. Para rin to sa mga mag-aaral na hindi kayang bumuli ng mga materyales na gagamitin sa pag-aaral. Ang inkludihan ay para rin sa ayuda sa mga kapuspalad or walang-wala or poorest of the poor. At para rin to sa mga proyekto ng hands-on inclusion sa hinaharap. Na-explain ko na to sa past episode, but I decided to bring it up again dahil some of you might be interested na makiparticipate sa inkludihan. don't hesitate. You can donate sa pamamagitan ng GCash and PayMaya sa number na nakadisplay sa inyong screen. 0917-701-9684. At kung meron naman kayong gustong i-donate na pre-loved clothing or old clothes, pwede kayong mag-contact kay JR Oteda sa number na naka-flash sa inyong screen. 0939-344-2170. Sa anumang halaga, inaasahan namin ng inyong suporta sa ating mga kababayan. Halina at mag-inklunihan. #inklunihanph, #include-together. At maaari nyo ring i-like ang Facebook page na Inklunihan PH for more details. So, we've already discussed about ableism, and para sa mga naka-experience din ng ganito, you may just leave down in the comment section ang mga ordeals nyo related to ableism and what could be done to prevent it. You may review sa video na to or something. But even though sa society na to, we still have a long way to go. May mga opportunities na for mga PWDs, and it's going more beyond wheelchair ramps. Meron ding mga visually impaired, mga deaf-mute na hindi kailangan ma-discriminate ng ganito just because of ableism. Some able-bodied people also have to be educated na. May limits din ang kanilang experience or privilege rather na bakit daw ganon, bakit ganyan. Na hindi naman, they don't always have to use the facilities na para dapat sa PWDs. Kaya dapat din nila mag-give way for PWDs to use this bathroom or upo sa special PWD area sa mga train or ganyan or sa bus. Lang. It's what they fail to look at, to see. So, that wraps up my Open Arms episode for tonight. It's about ableism. So, you may just leave any comment kung mayroon kayong experience. Sorry if I've said it again. Naulit-ulit ako. Siguro dala rito ng tension or something. Ganun talaga. I'm still working on my patience level, my temper. Still a work in progress. Pero kakayanin ko to. Anyway, see you all in the next episode of Open Arms. This is Billy. Have a good night, everyone. Dahil tayo ay God first and truth first dito sa HNI. God bless.